We do talk every day, and that's what led to this opportunity, because Ghislaine, who did a great job at Lucky Leaf After Party.
Oh, beyond great job.
Did you get to try the food?
All of the food.
Oh my gosh.
Every single piece of it. It was amazing.
Wow.
So fresh, so delicious. How she infuses everything that she infuses together in her whole menu setup.
Yeah.
I mean, for the next Lucky Leaf official after party, or whatever official after party
February
it is.
27th, 2026.
Yeah. We need to 2-3x that game.
Yeah.
We will.
Right.
It wasn't a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it was so amazing that the people that in theory missed out on the amazingness that was are going to experience it.
No doubt. I think the venue doesn't change. I think we just expand the space within.
100%.
Right?
Yeah. It felt, I think you and I discussed a little bit, but it felt good that it was tight, in a good way, because in theory, if we had opened it up to the back warehouse area in Modest,
it
might have felt a little more open, which wouldn't have been bad, because it's a spectrum, just like anything.
Yeah.
There are people that are going to be like, it was super packed. Well, yeah, because there's a lot of people, and it was a ballin' event, and we had a good time.
Yeah. I'm sorry to the lady who had to wait outside for too long, according to her. So. Yeah.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, right, there are going to be people that are going to love that it's really packed and loud, and we positioned it as a party. It was positioned as a party.
And when you look at the photos, it was a full party.
It was a full party.
Yeah.
Right?
So Ghislaine had chicken.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what I knew it was good, because I ended up getting over there at 9:30 to the food.
Yep.
And the veggies that were sitting out on the table, or on the tabletop, were still so fresh.
Oh yeah.
3-4 hours later.
It was still great to go over there and just crush
hummus.
Delicious hummus and peppers and broccoli and carrots, and it was
the vegan grazing tray is what she billed it in the invoice.
And it was grazable. It was I don't even know how to equate it, but it was an 8 foot long by 2.5 feet deep, probably piled 6 to 8 inches high of just vegan grazing. You don't even call yourself vegan. If you love vegetables, welcome to the party.
Yeah.
And that was when we were setting up, we were putting up posters and all the stuff and getting ready earlier in the day, and they were setting up the whole bar for all the food, and I was salivating. I was she's like, nobody eat anything yet. Not yet. Just wait. Everybody patient.
She's such a boss.
Yeah, so boss. It's so good too.
Right.
Yeah. So thankful for her amazing curation. That was that delicious sustenance.
And when I first reached out to her, it was before we had any of the premier sponsors lined up. Mm-hmm. We were in flux.
Yep.
And so I had to kind of keep her in the know, but also I don't know what our budget is. I know I want to have food at this event, but I don't know how much food we can have. And she was patient and professional, and it ended up working out. And I think we delivered from 5 to 7 exactly what we said we were going to do. We had open bar, food. There was still food left over at 9, so great, because not everyone got there by 7.
Right. I remember there were people that were coming in at that hour. We knew, obviously, with Lucky Leaf closing right at 5, there was going to be vendors and people that weren't going to be getting, they got to shut down their booths, this, that, the other thing, right? Drive or maybe go to their hotel, because a lot of people clearly weren't local.
Right.
Take a little time to get to Modest in that case. So I thought that 7:30. The 5 to 7 for the happy hour and that open bar was just super dialed. There was still a good amount of people there, easily 100 plus people.
Yeah, there were.
But then that sweet spot hour between that 7 to 9 time frame, I knew I was standing in and around the door and had met people from the show or the expo that day, and they came in, they're is there still food left? I just want some of that food.
Yeah.
It's I was dude, I don't know, I haven't been back there in a while, but I know people are crushing it. So rock and roll.
Yeah, with anything, but I think especially with events, the more that you do them, the better you get at them. And having done the CannaCon happy hour in August last year, which was more ballroom, professional catering, inside of a hotel room or a venue.
It was networking after the networking.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was heavy on the liquor, rum and cokes and gin and tonics. And
sure. We're modest on the opposition for anyone that wasn't there, was not rum and cokes and liquor. It is craft beer and beverages, as well as their THC-infused products.
On that note, because I didn't drink a whole lot. I didn't eat a whole lot. You know, I'm hosting the event, so that's par for the course. But
yeah,
how were they serving what were they serving? Because I saw some of the drinks were on ice. Were they serving grape apes on ice?
So modest, I can't go to the T of what it is, but they essentially have like they have like cocktail-inspired beverages that they produce, like an old-fashioned.
Yeah,
that's 22%. A grape ape, I forget what the percentage is on that, but yeah, they serve it like a grape ape in a small or a short,
like an airplane glass.
Yeah, airplane glass with ice and a straw, like you take a grape ape at like your local dive bar in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that plus on tap their craft beer selection as well as their THC bevs too.
It was phenomenal. So shout out to Modest.
Yeah,
and we look forward to coming back.
We're not going anywhere.
So,
we're right here.
That's a good intro. I'm here with Spencer Ploessl, the owner of Spencer Ploessl Creative, or just the owner of Spencer Ploessl owns Spencer Ploessl, and that's one thing that you get from him right away.
That's a little too meta for this conversation, I think. Or is it just the right amount of meta that we get to run ads on Facebook and Instagram?
Oh, that would be so nice. That'd be so nice.
You just got to say meta at least 6 times per 60-minute period. I think that's what what they're looking for.
That's what they're looking for? Yeah. Okay, then they'll get us approved.
How do I get my Instagram
I think we're already at 4 right now.
We're 4? Okay.
Yeah. Meta.
Steven.
I one time met a lady at the grocery store.
That was probably that was great. That caps it at 6.
And we're back.
I just need my username and password to access my Meta account because the last agency didn't give it to me, so I had to create a whole new account.
Sure.
But I'm going to help you in this concept that is what we're discussing. I am Spencer Ploessl, live and live in color in the flesh, and then the digital version of myself just throws a dot and a COM at the end, and then you can find my website.
That's
so right. I was having a hell of a time 15, 20 years ago, and I was like, okay, what am I like? What is my like independent freelance contract consulting thing? Like, I gotta create a name, I gotta create a brand, I gotta create a website, I gotta have a URL, I gotta make a logo, do all those things that like the average creative like thinks about if they're gonna go off independently. Mm-hmm. And I thought about it. I still think about it. Like, that'd be a cool name.
Yeah.
I always have loved the what am I thinking of? It's Supreme. I've always loved the Supreme branding. Very red, white, simple, clean, clear. Very, very impactful.
They borrowed it from that artist.
Yes.
From the 70s, I think.
Barbara. Very borrowed. Heavily inspired. Which at the end of the day, are we actually creating anything new, or are we just morphing what it is that we've seen and putting pieces together like a greater puzzle than the puzzle that's already been made? We just steal puzzle pieces from other things and create our own puzzle.
True.
Steal, inspire, whatever. There's different.
Good artist copy, great artist steal.
Yeah, sure. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I've always been thinking about my branding, and I could never come up with anything like really that great that I felt was like what it should be or who I should be that represents me. So what better than me to represent me?
Yeah.
So that's where I landed at. Well, we're just going to roll with SpencerPloessl.com and not confuse this. And then you'd be surprised. Still very confusing.
7 times, 7 different ways.
Because doesn't Apple have aren't they at me? Like Steven at me.com? Mm-hmm. Like your or iCloud, yeah. Like there's and so I man, really to roll with the meta theme here today. I didn't do like Spencer at SpencerPloessl.com for my email. Ooh, we're at 7, folks. Call from the nosebleed. It says we're at 7.
Those are like $300.
Yeah, at least. No, full package. It's fine.
Okay.
Where was that? Oh yeah.
Your email
instead of going
address.
Spencer at SpencerPloessl.com, because I was like, that's redundant, or like hello at or info at or what design or creative or something. I was like, well, it's just me. So hence why if you try to email, just email me at SpencerPloessl.com. There you go.
It's easy to remember once you know it.
Yeah.
What do people tend to email you about?
That's a great question. A lot of different things. But to be completely, like, I mean, a position myself.
I mean, do all your emails come through there? I'm sure
everything
comes through, and that's what I love about you. You have a great way of running like one path.
Yeah,
and you're really keen on running one path.
Right. Yeah. With having us, with having collaborated with you in the last 12 months or so on a few different initiatives.
Yeah.
You've come to find that, like, I run everything through, this, like, me at SpencerPloessl.com, like, trying to run in that one lane, the single lane of my own independent marketing and creative consulting business. And then, yes, I have tentacles that go out into other brands that I work on that, yes, I might have emails through something and someone else and other brands, because I feel like in order to fully integrate and have conversations and do reach out and comms plans and strategy and whatever else that might include, I want to be as one with the brand whenever I'm spending time and energy on whatever brand that might be.
Mm-hmm.
Which is where, like, in this case, thinking about Canna Connect, like, you can find me at Spencer at cannaconnectmn.com. However, that's a face value piece in order to communicate in my mind in a strategic manner that is holistic to Canna Connect MN.
Mm-hmm. Right.
However, on the back end, which is what you're talking about, all of that funnels to the one lane for me, so that I'm hyper focused, highly organized, and don't miss a beat when you're managing, 2 to 7 different email addresses.
Yeah.
In this case of email, we're on this topic of email addresses, I guess now.
Well, you need one to get onto Meta.
Cha-ching.
I start to question where I'm at in life and it's happened multiple times, when I'm like at the max number of Gmails that Google will allow me to have at one time. Like it's 10.
Yeah.
And like, to log out of Gmails, oftentimes you have to log out of all the Gmails and then relog back into the ones you want.
Right. In order to get rid of the ones that you're no longer, like, maybe be a part of or whatever. You have to log out of all, and you're like, oh no, I don't know if I want to hit that button yet.
Exactly. And it's probably the thing that have you encountered this?
No, I've never gotten there. And that's because I treat email like a vampire treats garlic. Like, me and email are not cool. So if you need to get a hold of me, figure out how to get a hold of me without it being email.
That's funny.
But also, if you need to get a hold of me,
Steve at mncannabiscollege.org.
Nailed it. Yeah, thanks, Steve.
We'll put that on the bottom of the screen. You're just going to get flood of emails for no reason.
It's true. No, nobody emails us. The thing is like, it is. Do I want to make that commitment to relogging back into all of my Gmails, especially with 2-factor authentication and things like that? And it's like, But I guess, like, staying relevant, like, to the Northern Lights podcast.
Yeah.
We often ask our guests, how did you come to find cannabis? What was your first experience with cannabis, and how has cannabis factored into your life as you live it now?
Yeah, that's a great question. To be completely honest, without thinking out it from like a business sense, and like, how did your brand do this, and how did you work on different companies and organizations, and that, like, going to the core level of, like, how did you find cannabis? Honestly, for me, it was the transition from traditional grade school into the high school level.
Sure.
The summer between 8th and 9th grade.
Yeah.
I discovered the great green plant that we surround ourselves with in all different form factors nowadays. Back then, it was just like from your homie, and it didn't have a name, and and hopefully it weighed enough until, like, you bought a scale, and then you're like, oh, this guy's been chipping me for a long time on this. What the heck, you know?
Yeah. This podcast is brought to you by Ziploc.
Cha-ching.
That's just for Tanner. He likes to.
Allegedly, it's not illegal to just say brought to you by.
Brought to you by.
Or
right.
powered by.
I think
you just legally can't say sponsored
by, yeah. I just watched one of the recent casts. There was a big thing on it. Tanner was all about that. What was it by? Or wait, no, it was live.
It was live at Lucky Leaf.
What was it? Who was it brought?
Brought to you by Girl Scouts of America.
Yeah, Girl Scouts cookies. Yeah. Right. This is brought to you by, because they're here.
the bag was brought to you by Ziploc, for
Literally.
example.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
That makes sense.
There's no sponsorships here. However, Steve at
mncannabiscollege.org will get you set up in the right place.
literally, yeah.
And there's more coming. Keep watching. And so 8th grade.
Oh yeah, there we are, yeah.
I just want to highlight, like, whether it's 8th grade going into 9th grade or 12th grade going into college or whatever comes after high school, or that year following college into the real world, whatever that means to you. Those are really pivotal summers. Those summers can be a lot of fun because there's so much unknown. And I just want to, without sharing my thoughts, I just think it's interesting that that's when you found cannabis, because it's such a pivotal moment in your life.
Right. Let me give you a deeper picture into that space. I call it 8th grade. And I played hockey my whole life. I played sports as a kid growing up. So inside of my room, growing up as a grade school kid, every single wall, you couldn't see any paint because it was all covered with Gretzky and Shaq and Jordan and posters all over it, right? Like total sports kid. That summer, all those posters came down. Black light posters went up. Black lights adorned. I had a Grateful Dead beads in front of my door, like that were the dancing bear, like beads to get inside of my door and out. Like I wore Grateful Dead tie-dye t-shirts every day in high school as a freshman. I wore hemp necklaces. I was still transitioning in my musical experience, so I still wore the red backwards Yankee cap because the first concert that I ever went to at the age of 13 was Limp Bizkit.
Oh, yes.
Second show I ever went to was Godsmack, opened by Stained. So like I was heavy in that, like that was the game before, like and then it was all like, the Who, the Dead, Pink Floyd, Bob Marley, just keep naming all the 60s. Like my parents and people, they're always like, you were born in the wrong decade, I'm a late 60s, early 70s kid, like Steve Miller Band, some of that Southern rock, like game over.
Yeah.
Which I still jam to. I mean, I'm very eclectic in my music choices. I don't have any sort of judgment or bias to anything because I don't have the musical talent that other people have. We won't call it talent. Some people are just naturally gifted in a way to find the frequency that resonates with them and make beautiful tones come out of that, out of those chords, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that transition period happened and like all the posters went up and the rest is history.
And so with cannabis being attributed to the change, like it helps us see the world differently, doesn't it?
Oh, most certainly.
Right. And so it's interesting that this plant that's consumed, and you probably weren't using a Storz and Bickel device when you started at 13.
No, it was like a Mountain Dew bottle with a piece of pipe tube super glued into it, and the bottom filled with water, and then some slide made out of aluminum foil. Yeah, 100%.
And then using that still gets you to the desired effect.
That was Spencer and Bradley. Those were the two guys.
Nice.
That's not S&B. Like the Storz and Bickel we use nowadays. Is a different S&B. Yeah. But that was
Spencer and Bradley, they'll help you.
It was 25 years ago now.
Sounds like a law firm. Yeah. Well, that's a great story. I mean, there's a lot more to it, right? 25 years later, but
yeah.
I like the impetus.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your parents had no idea what was going on.
No. Well, my parents are in their mid to upper 60s, as I am in my late 30s. And, they grew up in that late 60s, 70s era, and they were consumers of psychedelics and mind-altering substances and cannabis, as we were very relative to right now. And, at the end of the day, Stephen, this is very relevant for you as a recently, I was going to say recently acquired father. That doesn't make any sense, but it could.
The stork came and
dropped it off. And you're like, well, I accept. No choice now. No, but like, there's the kids. Our parents just mess up their kids, right? Like everybody's just generationally just speaking. You just have kids, and you're just trying to find a way to not fuck it up.
Yeah, and
then it happens in some way, shape, or form. However you want to look at it. Some are good, some are bad, some are in the middle, right? It's just it's a good radar. And so in this case, like, yeah, I was actually put through like marijuana, weed, drug counseling, like for, I don't remember. I can't remember. Let's say it was like 2 or 3 months, something like that. I was in a program that like my dad drove me to.
Wow. Yeah.
And I don't think I've never talked about this publicly, and it's not something that I'm afraid to talk about. It's just a thing that doesn't come up because it just was part of who I was, and that's just what happened. But it was like, and I have no judgment or shame on my family, like my mom or my dad at all for this, but it was just so interesting to see, you know, looking back on it, reflecting on it, thinking about like what they were trying to do. They were trying to ensure that their child like turned out good.
Right.
At its base level, like that he was a productive member of society, like, you know, got good grades and like got a good job and did all the things, went to college and wife, kids, blah, 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 in theory, right?
It was a
safety measure.
Best case solution for the problem that they were feeling.
Yeah, whatever they were in fear of, that was their protective measure on what was theirs, and what theirs was this, you know, their firstborn son. And yeah, so I don't know. It's just so interesting because like my mom put me into the thing, or enrolled me in this thing because she wanted to say you wouldn't smoke weed, and then my dad's the one that's driving me to this thing, and I'm like, but Dad, you're still the guy. This isn't you know, verbal conversation. This is in my head, like, but Dad, you're still smoking weed because I found your weed and I found your, you know, all of your things. Like I don't. This is such a, I can't think of the word right now, but it's
well, it's a product of prohibition. It's the unfortunate reality of a Schedule I controlled substance that shouldn't be a Schedule I controlled substance.
I remember when I was younger, it was hypocritical is the word I was looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Very hypocritical, right? That's what I thought when I was younger, when I was like in grade school, you know, like, this is so, like, I don't get it, right?
No.
I'm not understanding. And now, like I'm saying, reflecting on it back, especially with you in this conversation, it's like, what? It was a product of that fear and the wanting of something better for that child, i.e. me in this case. And I mean, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, you're doing great. You've done great work.
Yeah, I mean, here we are.
We're doing it.
Luckily.
Leafly. So, I mean, I think the generation, the 13-year-old Spencer in 2025, right? The kid in Madison who, you know, whose parent, you know, it's like whatever the parallel might be, I hope that there is more holistic approaches to educating young people on cannabis, because it's less of it's more approachable. Like if you're from Wisconsin, if we want to look at Wisconsin and, you know, the products that are available in Wisconsin, like you can get flower at gas station type smoke shops in Wisconsin, right? THCA flower.
Yeah.
But not to pick on that, because we do talk about that on the show often, but it's more so like cannabis isn't this like prohibited thing that nobody is allowed to touch anymore. I feel like there's more education and more transparency around cannabis. And I'm hoping that every generation forward, now that we're at this sort of tipping point where half of the states have legalized adult use cannabis, or nearly half of the states, that kids are less likely to be consuming it like behind the shed, you know, or hiding in the park, because the less that we, as a society, the less that we say no, 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 the less we'll have to worry about kids fighting back and saying yes, yes, yes.
Right. I think there's been a big push in the last couple of years here, especially with, well, look at what's sitting around us, right? Like cannabis, THC-infused beverages, right? From the cannabis,
yeah.
Right?
Somehow.
No matter which way it comes from, and no matter what your views are, it's still helping these drinks. Specifically, they're near and dear to my heart, only because, you know, from the last 20 years of my life being in the craft beverage and craft beer and beverage industry, and then kind of segueing in the last 5 years, focusing on some and working with some really awesome cannabis beverage brands here and far out of Minnesota and such. I think, like I said, it's breaking down stigmas. It's helping create an environment which is education that isn't just kids, you know, us kids running behind the shed and smoking weed on Thanksgiving.
Right.
You know, it's creating a environment where a community is consuming beverages, whether that be beer, wine, spirits, ciders, non-alcoholic beverages, sodas, teas, kombuchas, THC infused brews, waters, seltzers, what have you.
Yeah.
The adaptogenic beverages from nootropics and things of that nature, right?
And not to cut you off about cannabis beverages, but we
no.
found each other through LinkedIn.
What a place.
It's vast. And is it still owned by Microsoft?
Yeah.
And
wait, I say yes like I knew.
I think it is.
I was like, I didn't know, but when you said yeah, I was like, done. All right, great.
Yeah.
I know that's who did or does own it. Anyways, without going deep into that.
Well, this whole podcast is brought to you by Microsoft.
Thanks, Bill.
You're still active on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But when I met you, you were doing a lot of work for North Canaco.
Yeah, I was a creative director at North Canaco, cannabis THC-infused seltzer brand right out of Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Brandon and Mike are the two co-founders of that. Shout out to those guys. It was a great time working on your brand together. Awesome stuff. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I noticed, and what caught my eye was, wait a second, this North Canaco, it went from a brand that was, relatively known, but like not standing out by any means.
Sure.
To, holy cow, this brand has really leveled up, and like I'm starting to notice that somebody behind the scenes is helping evolve this brand. And turns out it was, in some degree, it was you.
Yeah, it was in part. I was focused heavily on the direct-to-consumer side, working on their Shopify website, implementing email marketing, and also partnering with media. Here we go. Partnering with media, buying and planning for specifically Meta, Facebook and Instagram ads, which is a whole different game.
Okay.
We're not going to unpack the ad game for THC infused.
No, I want to talk about these.
Yeah.
Not this one specifically, but
yeah,
the opportunity around cannabis beverages, and
yeah.
And maybe if you could take a step back and talk about
Sure.
the brewery world that you come from, and
Yeah.
You've unpacked the cannabis background, but talk about like kind of how the light bulb started to go off with excitement.
Yeah.
Because you worked for Inbound Brew Company as...
Yeah, Inbound Brew Co. is a marketing director there in Minneapolis, which is down in the North Loop, actually right kitty corner, Modest Brewing Company, right down by Target Field.
Hot spot.
Yeah, I worked for a couple other breweries, Lucid Brewing Company back in the day over in Minnetonka, and then as well as Miller and Leinenkugel's distributor over in the great state of Wisconsin over in Chippewa Falls.
Sure.
While I was going to college,
Okay.
UW Eau Claire.
Yeah, which is what a lot of people do. They drink alcohol in college.
So you don't say.
But nowadays, kids are drinking THC beverages.
Yeah, totally different. And it would be so interesting to see that world. But I wanted to, so before we go off on that tangent, what I wanted to say was you were looking to me to speak to my experience in the craft beer and beverage industry and that sort of like track that I've been on and what brought me into like the cannabev space.
Yeah.
But I have to go back a little bit further into that 8th and 9th grader that we talked about that found cannabis and like kind of changed his image and really dove into that sort of like, oh, who's this little hippie kid? As I grew, I was an art student kid. Like I took all the art classes that I could possibly take. I made up art classes because there wasn't any more art classes to take in college or in high school.
Wow.
And then I started to learn like early like Photoshop 1 and 2. Like there were classes for that in my high school.
Yeah.
And I learned how to design logos. I learned how to like Photoshop the background out of a car and like change it to a sunset versus like trees.
Sure.
Way OG stuff. Now you can just like click in the background, changes to whatever you want it. Like that's a different game. But right then I had this like vision in like, I don't want to date stamp it too much, but like, let's say 05, like 04, 05, 06, right when I was graduating college or graduating high school in 05. Yeah. And I really, as a pseudo like graphic designer, didn't even know what that meant before I went to college. Anyways, I always wanted to design, think of like cigarette packs.
Yeah.
Right?
Red and white.
Yeah, marble. Right. Classic. I'm a cowboy now. I wanted to shout out to Cowboy Cannabis.
Cowboy Cannabis, friend of the show.
Jonathan, friend of the show, dude. Met him in real life at Lucky Leaf, dude. Look at this.
He's a real cowboy.
I'm so lucky to have found this leaf and the real cowboy that is. Can't wait till we go up there and tour his facility, by the way. We got to take him up on that.
In Motley.
No, Motley. Yeah.
Be a Motley crew.
Can't wait. We're going to listen to some great tunes on the way up. Anyways, to unpack that, I wanted to, I was envisioning a day when I could be a graphic designer and design joint packs, like 20, 10, 20 pack, like, and I got to design like the actual packaging for like pre-rolled joints like that. That was my dream.
You were thinking about that.
I was thinking about that. I was like, man, someday it's going to be legal and I'm going to be able to do that. That's going to be so sweet. And then fast forward to now, like, I still haven't designed any joint packaging, but like me at spencerploessl.com, if you need any package design,
there will be a lot more joints coming online in the next year here.
Yeah, you're in Minnesota for sure. But anyways, so that's kind of like, that's where that stems from, that mindset of like wanting to work on. At that time, it wasn't like, oh, I want to work on a cannabis brand. Like that wasn't it. It was like, I want to design packaging for this. That's where the light came and started to like burn, right? And then it just threw more fuel on the fire, which is what my experience in the craft beer and beverage industry did when I started working for Miller Lyon and Kugels in like 05. That's 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
05, 06 when I started at the distributor, and I was an intern. I was a graphic design production guy, like making signage for bars and liquor stores and things of that nature. And then that just fueled and perpetuated my like love for beverage in general.
Yeah. Can you itemize? Can you recall the first beer that you designed? Have you designed a beer label? Beer label.
Yeah. It wasn't until, well, it was late in the Lucid Brewing Company days. Early then in the Inbound Brew Co days, I was able to design some 750 milliliter bottles.
Okay.
Actually, I did some pretty unique stuff. A lot of people were just designing typical sticker labels and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And my biggest thing is like at a retail location, like yes, at your brewery, selling off sale, like that's easy. People are already there. They're consuming your liquid, consuming your product. They'll grab out of the cold case, take and go. Like that branding to me is less like intrinsic to the value of somebody like looking at a label. Like you go to a store, you're like, oh, wine. We all know a lot of people. We all in this room have probably just been like, well, that's cool. It's a red. Great. Oh, that's neat. That's a white. Great. My mindset around that was like, there's so many craft beers that how do you stand out on that shelf? And there's so many badass designs, so many great label designs. So I actually partnered with a guy by the name of Todd. He's in the Northrop King building over in Minneapolis, and he's got a studio called Angel Bomb, and he's a letterpress design company. So I designed these labels that were really thin slivers, like that would fit around the base of a 750 milliliter bottle. And it was all about the sensory more than just visual. So like it said like RIS, just literally like RIS, and then really fine print in the center, Russian Imperial Stout. And there was no like at face value on a shelf or in a cooler door, you would see it was a Russian Imperial Stout, but you knew nothing else. So in order to know what brand it was, what brewery it was from, what other ingredients, what percentage, you had to pick it up, open it, touch that label, feel it, and be like, oh, this is Inbound Brew Co. So for me, it was a full sensory experience from like visual A, curiosity peaked B, C, open door, grab off shelf, feel it. Whoa, what is this? This is letterpress? That's not what the average person is going to think because they don't know what letterpress is. But wow, it feels sort of cloth-like. I like this.
Yeah.
Feels unique, feels luxury. Even though it wasn't like top tier, it wasn't like a $50 bottle of like Russian Imperial Stout. It was whatever, $18 or something,
Yeah.
But then like, okay, now I know it's the brand. Okay, wonderful. All of that subconsciously now has put me into the mindset like, well, I'm not even thinking about putting it back. Yeah. I'm so bought into what is that experience. I want to experience this. If they took all that time, subconscious again, remember, as a designer, as a creative, that's my job, is to create, allow the subconscious to come to the frontal cortex and be like, whoa, I'm not even thinking about this, that I want to experience this more. I want to keep going. I want to keep, like, I just want more of that. So I want all of that just happened that we just explained to then go, I want to try that liquid. And now you're making that purchase.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was one of my first forays into label design, more than just like, And not saying anything's wrong with this, because this is what it is. And also what I did was what it was. But like, this is like design a thing, and then we have 2 stickers, and that's great, right? Like tried and true. Like that's but for me, I wanted to go beyond that. And I'm not saying it worked.
Sure.
Like,
yeah,
it's not like it maybe
guarantee.
sold more.
I've never heard of it.
I like to think about it as what's the yes and. Like everything is improv with marketing, really, because you're reacting to trends. You're trying to understand zeitgeist. You're trying to tap into whatever, like the moving target in the dark room.
Yeah.
Totally. And so with marketing, it's like, it's not about standing out on the same shelf. It's about like building a whole new shelf in a lot of ways. And so
Yeah.
I really like the whole point of like, you're laying the breadcrumbs for the people to basically arrive at their own subconscious decision.
Right. Because what do we all want? Like, naturally, we all want a silver bullet. We want it quick, fast, now. Especially in American culture and society, we want it now. We want it fast. We want it simple. We want it easy. And like, once you actually make the human slow down and actually think about and make an intentional purchase based upon whatever it is that they might be experiencing through all different types of sensory data, that changes your own perception of what it is that you're experiencing. Whether or not you think about it that way, I do.
Yeah.
That's what I personally like to bring into brands, companies, organizations, products, things I work on. So like, yeah, and for me, like, we've been sitting here talking a lot about design and things of that nature. Like, that's what's then morphed me in my, like, okay, I'm a graphic designer, like I'm a brand manager, I'm a marketing director, I'm a creative director, I'm like, what are you? And like this whole concept of like, what is an independent marketing and creative consultant? Well, I still am figuring that out because there's not a definition. There's a lot of people that might call themselves that, and mine is just like a morphology of like what I've done. I've done a bunch of marketing things, I've done a bunch of creative and design-esque things, and like I marry them together, and I can help consult for brands and products and companies and do that in a lot of different ways, shapes, and forms, from designing a label, as we're speaking about right now, to focusing on your e-commerce strategy, right? Like, as we were just discussing earlier today.
Yeah.
For something that has nothing to do with craft beer or cannabis.
Sure.
You know?
But on that note, to flip it,
Yeah.
what do you think of hemp-derived THC? And when you first heard about it, did it take you a little while to wrap your head around? And I'm genuinely curious. Like, we know that it's cannabis.
It's cannabis. There's an umbrella. There's cannabis. You have marijuana. You have hemp.
Yeah, they're cousins.
And right.
They're also cousins with hops.
The hops is
which you've met hops.
The terpene game.
Yeah.
Ghislaine, let's use her as the full circle back to her as an example. Like her in talking about terpenes and food and her, what is it called? Isn't
the terpene tasting kit? And
there you go.
How she does these private dinners where she pairs food and cannabis, and I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you would know the answer to this question, but like, where do you recall first hearing about THC beverages?
Oh, I know exactly where. It was in the great state of Colorado, almost 5 years ago now. Maybe 4.
Okay.
I forget exactly. Doesn't matter. Anyways, I was out there for the CBC, the Craft Brewers Conference.
Okay. Not the cannabinoid.
No, not CBC, the cannabinoid. And at the Craft Brewers Conference, I was out there, and at the time, I was consulting on a brand called NZ Hops. NZ Hops is a master grower cooperative of 27 master growers in New Zealand, with some of the most sought-after hop profiles and hop cultivars in the world, like Nelson Sauvin, and now Nectaron, Superdelic, Motueka, Kohatu, things of that nature. Anyways, I was out at CBC, and we and some of my teammates, they knew Dr. Keith Villa. Dr. Keith Villa is the father of Blue Moon.
Oh.
And Keith had invited us over to his home facility where he was producing a brand and a beverage by the name of Saria. And they were non-alcoholic craft beers infused with rec level marijuana THC.
Sure.
So when I was at CBC, my hotel room I was staying in, I went to dispensaries and I bought all and as many of those beverages as I could. Also, it was early in my alcohol-free, non-alcoholic lifestyle journey as well.
Sure.
I started in 2020, so it was like 2020, 2021 when this was going on. So yeah, that's where I first experienced a THC-infused beverage, and I couldn't wait because I had for the longest time wanted a craft beer experience with an IPA or a wit beer, as Sarius still produces non-alcoholic like NA beers or actually they're alcohol-free beers. They're 0.0. We could unpack that if you really wanted to, 0.0 or 0.5. But
we're at the Dabbler Depot. We know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was a perfect blend of those two worlds. It was craft beer and craft cannabis coming together in one sitting, where I could have a cannabis experience, but also a flavor experience of an IPA or like a Blue Moon-esque style beverage.
What a special place to try that and to consume
100%.
Truly a premium beverage.
Yeah. Totally.
Early on.
And that was, mind you, that was Colorado, rec state, dispensary only. And then and then I was like, man, I wish I could buy that. And it's just like the designing joint packaging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, it was the same thing. I was like, this is awesome. I wish I could buy this where I'm already making beverage purchases. And then fast forward, not but like, let's say 21, 2, 3, right? 2, 3, 4, like fast forward a couple of years and boom, now, like poster child state we live in here in Minnesota, like, dude, you can go to your local grocery store, co-op, convenience store, Dabbler Depot, things of that nature, and you can
tap room.
You can get it on tap in Minnesota. Not every brewery's doing it, but you can go on tap and you can literally get a pint or a 10-ounce or a 5-ounce sampler of a THC-infused beverage. And that's obviously with the advent's wrong word, but the introduction of hemp-derived cannabis-infused beverages.
Yeah, I mean, it's through bipartisan politics in some part with respect to Minnesota. So, yeah, it's an incredible moment. It's an incredible movement, and it's an incredible time to be in Minnesota, focused around cannabis and THC beverages. And what are some of your goals as it relates to continuing to fuse your past experiences to power and further more experience? Yeah,
so right now where cannabis beverages are, you'll talk to people and they're like, man, it's so crowded. There's so many beverages. There's no more room for people to try to keep, bringing these beverages online for direct to consumer or retail and distribution across the nation to the states that still allow it. But what it feels like to me is it feels like 20 years ago when like Surly Brewing Company at the Miller Line & Kugel's distributor I was at was coming across the state into Wisconsin from, the Twin Cities for distro, and like they couldn't keep up with demand in Wisconsin, so they pulled back out of Wisconsin and then only served Minnesota at that time.
Yeah.
And people were building more and more space for more craft beer, more craft beverages. They were building more coolers in larger grocery stores and liquor stores. Mm-hmm. It was only, and
it was craft beer was booming.
Yeah, totally. 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I was in that. So without belaboring it, this feels like that. So for all those people that are like, man, crowded, this, I'm like, and not in a judgmental way, but just in a way that's very truthful to my own, self.
Right. The cycle.
You have no idea. Huh. It's the first. Welcome to the first day of the rest of your life. Think about 20 years from now. Think about 20 years from like 2023. Okay. Mm-hmm. 2023 was when I was consulting or working as a creative director on the North Canaco brand. Mm-hmm. I think about like 2023. So like 2043, okay? 2043, it's 2025. That's 20 years from now. Being in that space, we don't even know what that's going to look like.
No.
We think we know because of what we know now. We have no idea. We literally live in this unknown. And for me, I was just talking to a guy at Embrace North today in the sauna sesh before I was, doing the fire and ice game.
Sure.
And dude, like we were talking about living in the unknown and talking about fear and greed and money and like, I don't know, we were unpacking a bunch of stuff, but
it's a great place to do it.
Right? Very community focused. We were literally like thriving. Like you don't know what you don't know. We literally live in the unknown. So you got two choices. Either you can grab it and embrace it, or you can be scared of it.
Sure.
Right? And I personally, there's a lot of other things you could probably use as words to describe that, but I embrace the unknown. I love living in the unknown because it's all that we all live in the unknown. We have no idea. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes. I mean, I'm probably going to be still sitting here next to you, but like at the end of the day, like we don't have a clue what's going to happen. So 20 years from now, full circle picture, dude, I don't know where these cannabis are going to be. Like it's scary, right? Like now in legislation and state by state and federal and all this jazz is just like, I just take it one email at a time.
Yeah. I think we're safe in Minnesota.
Do you think we're safe?
Yeah.
Why do you think we're safe? And what does safe mean?
Safe is a 4-letter word.
Nice. Safety meeting.
I mean, we've proven that the sky is not going to fall with Minnesota THC beverages.
I follow.
From a regulatory perspective, I think the path that we're on is relatively protected. Now, federally, things could change. However, the state law will matter more. And so I feel really good. I feel really comfortable in the space that we're in.
100%. Same here, dude.
100%.
Yeah.
The point is, though, there's still a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
To develop new things, and I look forward to continuing to develop new things with you, and appreciate you coming on this show, because this is the latest episode of the Northern Lights podcast. This is season 2, episode 22.
Wow.
222.
222. Look out.
We'll get matching necklaces.
I can't wait.
We'll be right back.